Hey everybody, Ryan here at Etrailer. Today on our 2021 Ford Ranger, we're going to be showing you how to install the Blue Ox base plate kit. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this will be the right setup for you. Before we get too carried away and kind of jump right in, checking out the base plate, I figured it'd be useful just to refresh yourselves on the main parts that we're going to need to flat tow our Ranger down the road in the first place. There's going to be a total of 5 main components that you're going to need. First one's going to be the base plate, and that's going to provide us with a solid and reliable attachment point. That way we can hook our tow bar up. Tow bar is going to be the second component, and this is going to be the physical link that actually connects the front of your truck to the back of your motorhome. Third main component will be safety cables, and these are just there in the event of an unlikely disconnect. They're going to keep everything paired together. The fourth main component will be tow bar wiring, and what that's going to do is transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Ford, keeping you safe and legal. And last but not least, the fifth main component will be a supplemental braking system. And what this is going to do is apply the brakes in your Ranger whenever you hit the brakes in your coach, bringing you to a quicker and more complete stop. There are a couple more small things that I do recommend for the Ranger. One of them is what's called a battery charge line. And what that's going to do is essentially keep your Ranger's battery topped off and trickle charged whenever you're flat towing it behind the motorhome. And that's because the braking systems are going to use battery power when they operate and slowly but surely deplete the battery. So having a charge line in place will prevent that, and everything will work like you'd expect it to. The other thing is what's called a brake light relay. And what that's going to do, whenever you're say at a stoplight and you have, let's just say, your left turn signal on, without a brake light relay, what would happen is the brake lights would override the turn signal. So even though you had your blinker on at the back of the truck, you just show brake lights. And so having a brake light relay in there, it's going to allow everything to operate the way it should. Have the one brake light on, the turn signal going, and keep everything going like you'd expect it to. This is what your setup can look like whenever you're flat towing it behind the motorhome. And I think it looks clean, well organized. You know, everything's easy to see and get to, and everything else. And I do like how the attachment points are pretty wide. I feel like that ought to really help it kind of track behind the motorhome better. You know, having that wider footprint, I feel like it just has a little bit more control. So that's always a bonus there. Something I do want to mention is something that's called the high-low adapter. And in our case, we don't need one today because our motorhome's hitch rides so low, but I'm bringing this up because you want your tow bar to be level whenever you're towing it down the road, okay? And there's a measurement you can take from the center of the pinhole on your base plate arm down to the ground. You can record that measurement. In our case today, it was about 16.5 inches, something like that. Probably gonna be pretty standard for most trucks, but I can't speak for every single one of them. But you can take that measurement and then measure from the center of the hitch pin hole on your motorhome down to the ground. And as long as that measurement is within 3 inches of each other, you'll be in good shape. You won't need a high-low. However, if it exceeds it, most often the motorhome hitch is going to be sitting up a little higher, generally speaking. But if it exceeds that, you can get a high-low adapter, and that's going to plug into your motorhome's hitch, drop down. You'll have another receiver tube that the tow bar can plug into, and that's how you can achieve a level tow bar. And if you end up needing one of them high-low adapters, we have a ton of different sizes available right here at Etrailer. This is what your Ranger is going to look like whenever you're not flat towing it behind your motorhome. And I feel like that's pretty important because a lot of times you're not going to be flat towing, right? You're just going to be driving around. And to me, I think it looks pretty good. I don't really think it could get a whole lot better, to be honest. The base plate is going to replace your factory tow hooks. So originally there was something here anyway, and you know, it kind of just is what it is. It blends in pretty good. There's a black powder coat finish, kind of, you know, puts off a factory type appearance, matches some of the plastic and everything else around the grill. So all in all, I think they did a pretty good job. Another important aspect to your base plate is how easy is it going to be to use, right? So one thing that streamlines everything a little bit, they do give you a bracket here that allows you to mount up your electrical connector. So obviously easier to install it and use it. You know, you got a good convenient spot to plug in, and also more importantly, hooking up. So these use removable arms, and so whenever you are ready to hook up to your motorhome, you pull these covers out. These come with the base plate. It's a nice touch, just keeps dirt and stuff from getting inside of there. But you're gonna take the removable arm, push it into place, rotate it, it'll lock in. Same deal over here, and this is gonna give us a spot to hook our tow bar up. So once those arms are in, you're ready to hook up your tow bar and your other components. And with these, it's super straightforward. The base plate is going to work with most Blue Ox tow bars, and even ones like this. Today is a good example. We have the Roadmaster Nighthawk, but it has the Blue Ox adapter ends on it. So you could do something like that, or let's say if you already happen to have maybe a Roadmaster tow bar, you can always get these adapters separately and still allow you to pair the two together. But that said, you're just going to line it up, put your pin and clip through, and of course don't forget to hook up your safety cables and all of your other wiring and everything else. Other than that though, at the end of the day, pretty nice base plate. You know, it's going to be easy to use and look good, so definitely no complaints there. Compared to some of the other base plates available, they're all going to be very similar for the most part in terms of looks and functionality and everything else. This particular one, from my experience at least, is quite a bit easier to install. So if that's important to you, something to think about. With these, essentially just, there's a panel you'll take off underneath, the tow hooks get removed, and these kind of just bolt up, really. So pretty straightforward. And I was pleasantly surprised how quick and smooth everything went. But with that said, if you'd like to see how these get put on, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and do that together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the front of our Ranger, and first thing we need to do, if you look by our tow hooks, we're going to have these rubber dust covers, and we need to remove them. You can just pull these out by hand, grab down on them, slide it out, and from this point on, anything we do to one side of our vehicle, we're going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. Now we can remove our belly pan here. It's going to be held in place with 4 15mm head bolts. These ones here towards the back, I'm not going to pull out completely because this pan does have a slot in it, so we can just essentially pull it out. So I'm just going to loosen these up about halfway probably. And then the two in the front, I'm going to completely remove. Obviously want to support it some. With the mount, you should be able to just kind of drop this down some, slide it off, and set it to the side. So now we can actually remove the tow hook, 2 15mm head bolts. So we'll go ahead and get both of them pulled out. Drop this down and get it out of the way. So at this point we can start to get our base plate on, and we're going to first work on the side plates. So make sure you have the correct one because they are side specific and a little bit different from each other. So we are on the driver's side, and this is going to be the plate that goes to the outside of the frame rail. But with that said, you're going to take this bolt. It's a little bit longer than the other ones, has a small shoulder there on it, so make sure you grab the right one. But you're going to take a split lock washer and a flat washer. This is going to go through like that, and then you're going to take 2 more flat washers, put that on, and what's going to happen is there's a factory hole in the frame that this bolt's going to go through, and then we're going to secure it by using one of these nut plates. So this when we have this up there, we'll stick this through the frame and that's going to thread into there. I do suggest before doing that though, just to run the bolt through the nut plate, because sometimes some slop and stuff can get in there and make it kind of hard. So by doing that out, that'll clear all that out, make it a little bit easier on you. And I want to mention as well, any of the hardware that we're going to use to secure the base plate, you need to put on some red Loctite on the threads. So this doesn't come with the base plate. If you need a tube though, you can always grab it here at Etrailer. But now that we have this somewhat set up, we can go ahead and get it on our car. So if you look at our frame, so we're on the driver's side, outside, there's that factory hole that we're going to put our bolt through. So we'll take our setup here, kind of hold it in place, and then we're going to take our nut plate, put that through the front of the frame rail, line it up, and we want to get it started hand tight. For the inside plate, it's going to work kind of the same way, but you can see it's set up a little bit differently. It looks a little different, but that's going to line up with that hole in the frame. And so with this one, you're going to use the 1/2-inch bolt, put on a split lock washer. And this is also going to use one of the nut plates too, that go in through the frame. So line this up, get our nut plate up through there, and get it hand tight. So with both these hand tight, now we can actually grab the base plate. Again, these are side specific, make sure you have the right ones, but the holes in the base plate are going to line up with the factory threaded holes there in the frame that we're originally holding our tow hooks on. And you're going to use the factory bolts that we're holding the tow hooks on. So what I like to do is just put this in a socket and an extension, makes it a little easier to kind of work with. And we'll line this up and thread them in hand tight. So for these bolts, or I'm sorry, these attachment points that will bolt the side plates to the actual base plate here, you'll obviously have two on each side there. What you're going to use are these bolts. I'm going to put on a split lock washer and a flat washer. And then on the inside, you're going to use one of the nylon lock nuts. So run them through. And get them all hand tight. So with all the hardware in place and hand tight, we can snug everything down. I personally like to start with these top bolts up here. So that one was a 9/16 in size, and one on the other side. You can use a 3/4 inch or even a 19 millimeter. And once I have these done, I like to do our factory bolts there and finally come back and do these. So now we need to come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all of the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can always get one here at Etrailer, or a lot of times you go to your local auto parts store and they'll have one there available that you can rent. Once all the hardware is torqued, we can remove this handle material here. Sometimes you can just work them back and forth and they'll break free. I feel like these are on there pretty good though, so if that doesn't work, this one's feeling like it's coming, but if that doesn't work, then you can always just use a pair of snips and try to get in there. And get them trimmed off. So what I went ahead and did now was take the included safety cables and D-link and attach them to the base plate. So those holes there in the base plate, take your cable, wrap it around the frame, and then put the D-link through it. Pretty straightforward. I do like to take some zip ties and kind of zip tie everything tight. That way, it just doesn't bounce around as much and make noise. So make sure you do that on both sides of your truck. So now what you can do is take your belly pan and reinstall this. So you're gonna slide this in. It's gonna be really hard to see, so I'll just do my best to explain it, but that hole's gonna line up with those brackets here in the base plate. And what you're gonna do is take one of these bolts, split lock washer, flat washer, you're gonna run that up through there and then secure it on the inside using a nylon lock nut. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Blue Ox base plate kit on our 2021 Ford Ranger.